Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We are currently at 33 subscribers, about 350 views. Please like, please subscribe, please watch my videos. It would mean a lot if you guys, as we get close to the election, if you guys continue watching, that would be really, really helpful for my channel, really motivate me to keep pushing out these videos. But the topic of today's video was that Trump can still win, and I filled out the map currently. 125 safe for Donald Trump and 182 safe for Joe Biden. Now, factoring in some of these states such as Mississippi, South Carolina, a lot of these states that currently are polled as likely for Donald Trump would have to be safe. If he is winning this election, these would have to be safe margins, no question, because his support would have to grow, or not grow, but his support would have to stay relatively the same, meaning he would have to win Missouri by 15, 16, along with a lot of these other states. He can't lose a significant amount of the electorate where these states become likely. So that's right off the bat. He would have to win those states safe, 125 electoral votes. That leaves 231 electoral votes. Actually, I'm sorry, 230 because Maine's first district would as well go safe for Joe Biden. That leaves 230 electoral votes. We do see that Joe Biden is still leading just based on safe states. Now, in terms of likely states, in Donald Trump's ideal map where he's able to win, a lot of states would still go by likely margins that were considered competitive, somewhat competitive. That would be New Mexico for Joe Biden. Colorado would still be likely, I believe, as well as the state of Virginia would still be likely for Virginia. He's going to do very well here in Fairfax. Corporate candidates, as I said, do very well in the state of Virginia. The Senate race is looking to be safe for the Democrats. Even in Donald Trump's best case scenario, this could not be a lean because even Hillary Clinton was able to win it by a likely margin. Additionally, polls are suggesting now that states such as Minnesota and Nevada would be likely. However, if Trump were to be able to maintain most of his base, and they come out strong on election day, which is not impossible. As I've said, this is not impossible for Trump to defy odds and win a second term. These would be lean margins for Joe Biden. It would not be likely. It would probably be a 3 to 4 point victory. And if we're seeing Joe Biden slightly outperform Hillary Clinton or even run on par in states like Minnesota and Nevada, that gives Trump a chance. He could be in striking distance. If he could even move these into the tilt margin, that obviously would help his odds. But at this point, Trump's pathway revolves around the Rust Belt. And a lot of these same voters that are in Minnesota, that are in Nevada, would still go for Joe Biden, but they wouldn't go by convincing margins that polls are suggesting at this point. Moving forward into Maine's second district, which I think will really be a great indicator. At this point, Joe Biden is expected to win by a very, very small plurality. It'll be probably by about a tilt margin in favor of Joe Biden. At this point, Donald Trump would have to win this by likely margin, likely to lean, probably 6% at least. The reason being is that this is one of those districts that swung heavily. We talk about the Obama-Trump voters that voted Obama twice and then voted for Trump. This is exactly those types of voters in rural Maine. And this is going to be a great indicator if Trump is able to get his rural turnout out, if he's able to mobilize those same supporters. We could see Maine's second district go as a likely margin. I wouldn't be surprised to see it as potentially lean. But Trump would need it to be likely. It would have to be on the low end of likely for him to have a reasonable shot at winning this election. Additionally, in the likely column would have to be Ohio and Iowa. Ohio and Iowa are states he won by 8 comfortably. And if Biden is slightly outperforming Hillary Clinton, he's winning the popular vote by 3 to 4%, which would be Trump's best chance at winning the election. His support would marginally drop in states like Ohio and Iowa. He would probably have 5 to 6 point victories, which is not impossible. These states are, Trump is slightly favored to win here. So when the rest of the map is kind of going for Biden, besides Ohio and Iowa, it wouldn't be impossible to see his support only slightly drop versus dropping 7 to 8%, which polls indicate. So Ohio and Iowa would go likely for Trump. He needs these to be likely. If these are lean, he doesn't really have a chance. If they are tilt, he absolutely does not have a chance. So these would have to be likely, which is not impossible at this point for him to win these likely. In fact, I think that it is more likely that he wins by a likely margin than he does a lean. I don't think that Trump is going to win these by lean margins. I think he'd either win them by tilt or likely, depending on how far his support has dropped. Continuing on, the state of Texas as well would probably have to be a 5-point victory. It would have to be on the border between lean and likely. I'm going to be leaving it as lean at this point, right on the border, probably a 5-point victory, 6-point victory. Again, I'm going to leave it as lean, but it would have to be a lean to likely margin. If we see that Donald Trump is winning this state by 2.2%, as I talked about in my last video, then he's losing. That would be a really not a very comfortable margin for Donald Trump. So this would have to be a very comfortable lean, probably around 5%, right on the border. The reason being is that, again, it's a good indicator of Trump's rural turnout. If he is able to mobilize his supporters in the north part of the state, as well as in the northeast around many of these major metropolitan cities, we could see Donald Trump potentially winning this election. If he's able to do that in other states, and he was able to do it in 2016, to say that he has no chance is simply wrong. And the Democrats are doing much better in terms of mobilizing their support as well, not consolidating it around one state such as Pennsylvania, but really trying to go for a Rust Belt strategy, a Rust Belt plus Florida strategy, which looks like to be their best path at this point. But a lean margin for Texas would have to be. A tilt margin is not going to make it for Donald Trump. He would lose the Rust Belt. He would likely lose Florida and North Carolina at that point. The same thing would have to be said for something like Georgia and North Carolina. Georgia and North Carolina are two of those states that did vote for Donald Trump. Georgia was around 5-6, and North Carolina was around 3.5. We would have to see Donald Trump probably winning by 1.5% in the state of North Carolina, and similarly, he would probably have to be winning somewhere around 2 to 3%. I think regardless of who wins the election, Joe Biden will outperform Hillary Clinton. He is going to do better in terms of popular vote, and I think that he is going to be able to excite voters more than Hillary Clinton was, which would put a state that voted 5% for Donald Trump into, again, a 2-point victory, a state that voted 3.5 into a 1.5-point victory. So again, very, very narrow victories for Trump here. But he would have to hold on to these two states. Taking these out of his column and putting them in Joe Biden simply makes the math impossible. It's not possible for Trump to win without winning lean margins in these states. Continuing on, I think that Trump would definitely have to hold on to the state of Florida. If you give Joe Biden Florida, if Trump were to win this election, he would have to hold on to every state. He would have to hold on to Arizona, the entire Rust Belt, to win this election. And he could lose the other 2 districts as well in Maine and Nebraska. But that would never happen realistically, because if we see Florida go, we know that the Rust Belt is going. We know that North Carolina is probably going. We know that Texas will probably be a tilt margin for Donald Trump. So Florida is a must-win. It's not a must-win for the Biden campaign, but it is a must-win for the Trump campaign. So factoring that in, I'm going to be giving that as a tilt. And the home state factor is very important, and we see that at least in the Sun Belt and in the South, the party registration for Republicans is very good as well, and Trump is able to excite his voters in ways that Democrats simply can't because of Trump's consolidated support in a lot of the rural areas in this state. So I'm going to be putting that as a tilt. In my current prediction, I have it as a tilt to Biden. But if things change and Trump is able to win by a point here, it opens up a number of paths for him. Now, granted, Joe Biden can still just win through the Rust Belt. That's all he'd need to do, and he'd win this election. But Florida is a must-win. It's a must-win state. So is all of these other states that are in the South. He would have to win these states. Continuing on, I think that the states of New Hampshire as well would probably be tilting into Joe Biden's column. I do not think Joe Biden is very popular here. He doesn't excite young voters. He doesn't excite white voters, and this is a heavily white state. So in order to see Trump winning, he'd probably have to win by or lose by a similar margin that he did. No one's talking about Donald Trump winning the state of New Hampshire, but he would have to come within 1% to have a reasonable shot. And a similar margin would have to be seen. He would probably have to lose Maine at large by a lean margin, which is similar to 2016. I think that both of these states will be going likely, this state and this one district. However, Trump, if he's able to excite white voters, he just had a rally in New Hampshire today. If he's able to get out his vote, he might narrowly lose this state and open up many more paths along the Rust Belt as well as in the South. Continuing on, I truthfully think that Pennsylvania is going to be the most important state for this cycle. The reason being is that giving Pennsylvania to Biden really makes it hard for Trump to get to 270, because if Pennsylvania is going, it's very likely that Michigan and Wisconsin are also following suit. The only silver lining for Trump at this point is that Pennsylvania is the closest state. It is the closest state out of the Rust Belt. We see that Biden's winning right now by around 7% in Michigan and Wisconsin, and he's winning Pennsylvania as well by around 4.5 to 5. So it is true that Trump is has more support in the state of Pennsylvania, primarily because of the western part of the state as well as the center part of the state. However, the East Coast is really what's putting Biden over the top with Philly and the surrounding suburbs, which frankly Trump is toxic in American suburbs, especially those around Philadelphia, with high minority turnout. So in order for Trump to win, he would have to absolutely run up the margins in rural Pennsylvania, the same way that he did in Ohio. There's just less of it in Pennsylvania. He'd have to run up the rural vote, probably win Erie County by a tilt margin, and start to eat into these suburbs like he did. Narrowly lose Bucks County, deplete Biden's margin in Philadelphia County as well to probably under 450,000 votes net for Joe Biden. So it isn't impossible. Again, 538 is optimistic for the Trump campaign, or for the Biden campaign, that is. If Trump's able to win Pennsylvania, then he's probably winning the election. But looking at it, I believe that Pennsylvania is his best pathway to victory. It opens up many paths for him, and it truly is a must-win for both campaigns. The entire Rust Belt is a must-win. Joe Biden has a lot less quote-unquote must-win states than Donald Trump does. He doesn't have to win Florida. Neither does he have to win North Carolina or Georgia or Texas. He just needs the big three in the Rust Belt that Hillary Clinton lost by only 1%. So that would be a tilt into Trump's column. Again, probably a 50 to 49 victory if he's able to get his voters out. And that's the point. If Trump's vote is suppressed by even just 1%, he loses this election. So again, even though Joe Biden might have more enthusiasm and he might run up the margins more, if Trump's able to keep the popular vote somewhat close, he has an opportunity to hold on to Pennsylvania, to hold on to states like Florida, and be somewhat competitive in the remainder of these states. Now, at this point, Trump is at 268 and Biden is at Hillary Clinton's number 232 at this point. Trump would probably need to be winning Nebraska's 2nd district by a tilt margin as well. This is a margin that's getting closer, and Joe Biden's actually, at this point, 538 projects about a 7-point victory for Joe Biden here. So that would be a likely margin. That's why I have it as tilt, because I think that Donald Trump would have to win Omaha and the surrounding suburbs by a tilt margin in order to have a reasonable shot. And it's not over for the Trump campaign. As much as perhaps Joe Biden supporters like to think we might have this in the bag, it's simply not true. It's not true. And yes, Joe Biden is outperforming Hillary Clinton, but that doesn't mean that Donald Trump cannot mount a comeback like he did in 2016. Now, Trump is at 269 and Biden is at 232. If Biden were to win the remainder of these states by tilt margins, he would tie. He would tie with Donald Trump. However, in Donald Trump's pathway to victory, it really comes down to Wisconsin, in my opinion. Wisconsin would have to tilt into Trump's column. This was the biggest margin of victory for Trump in 2016. He was able to completely flip a number tens and tens of counties, as well as the WOW counties had massive turnout for Donald Trump as well. He was able to not only run up his votes, but suppress a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters. Trump actually got less votes, I believe, in Wisconsin than Mitt Romney did. And Mitt Romney lost the state by 6 to 7%. So it just shows you, if he's able to frame Joe Biden as an out-of-touch candidate and appeal to a lot of these rural voters and eat into Milwaukee County, he has a chance at Wisconsin, and it's not impossible. I think that Joe Biden will probably carry the state by a likely margin, but to see it tilt into Trump's column would not be something that history doesn't align with, because Trump did win the state in Wisconsin in 2016. He won Michigan. He won Arizona. These were states that Trump clearly won, not by decisive victories, but at this point, Trump is at 279. He is at 279. He has won the election. The remaining states, honestly, I think that Joe Biden would still be winning the state of Michigan by a tilt margin in Donald Trump's best case scenario. If Donald Trump were to be able to win this election, Joe Biden would still be able to pick off Michigan, and at the same time, he would probably be able to pick off Arizona as well. I think that these states would be two flips for Joe Biden. He would still lose, but Trump's support in Michigan and Arizona has dropped significantly. Party registration is very good for Democrats in these two states. Arizona is likely going to have 2 Democratic senators. Michigan has 2 Democratic senators as well. I think that these states really are. Michigan is a ancestrally blue state, but Arizona is a state that is slowly tilting towards the Democrats, and Joe Biden's appeal to older voters as well will make a difference. So Trump's strategy comes down to Pennsylvania. It comes down to Wisconsin. If he's able to hold every other state besides Arizona and Michigan, really Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are the most important, influential states in this election cycle. And if Donald Trump is able to hold on to most of his voters, he has a chance. I just wanted to make a video of that Trump has a chance. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.